Arsenals. We get asked all the time. This is definitely the most asked question we get all the time. What ball should I get? Where should this fit? So we are going to put together a couple of options for you guys. I think me and Chris are going to do a 6-ball Arsenal. The way I'm going to lean it is towards the guy who plays maybe league twice a week, bowls the odd tournament, doesn't really bowl PBA stops, just bowls local area stuff, odd time bowls on a pattern, kind of deal. So for me, it's probably not going to include a urethane ball unless you're super high rev rate. I think for most people, you just don't really need one most of the time for bowling on just regular 3-to-1 patterns. I'm going to start with the one ball that I would have almost regardless of your ability. I'd have a plastic ball. Yeah, I think that's the ball for me that it matches up on everything. It's the one ball that can get you the most pins over a season, and it's surprising how many people just don't want to use one.
Yeah, even at the pro level, it's shocking how many guys that don't really throw it straight opt not to throw one when they carry 20 bowling balls around if they want, even on tour.
Uh-huh.
Some of it's a feel thing. They don't want to switch thumbs, but that's not really a great excuse anymore either, because you can switch them out if you really are so inclined. I've done it both ways. When we did the international thing and it was 6 balls only, and I didn't, I was at the height of my powers. I felt like I could do well enough. And most of the time we didn't bowl on short patterns when you went overseas, which helps. But at this point, I'm pretty much back to using the spare ball all the time, no matter where we go.
Yeah. So that would be my first ball. Are you kind of in agreement with that, Chris?
I think that is the one ball you are guaranteed to use. So if you throw it straight enough, you can use a weak reactive ball or maybe a urethane ball as your spare ball. If you are not sure if you throw it straight enough, then you don't.
I was about to say, is that a bit like the older rounders thing? If you can't figure out who the fish is, it's you.
Yeah, exactly. If you're not sure, then you don't. Because if the patterns are long, it's probably fine. But if you bowl on anything that hooks, has a defined track, bounces a little bit somewhere, you're probably going to get stuck if the lane's flat in the middle. And you're going to. I bowled with some guys in the doubles, and basically the only reason they didn't cash and end up at the top was they chopped the 3 off the 6 about 6 times. I mean, it just kept hooking off a 12 because that's what 25-year-old HPL does. And
somebody's just asked a quick question. Mike says, plastic ball. Chris, I see you using the white mix. How's it holding up?
That's actually why I do use the white mix, is because those things are tanks, and I've been throwing them for a while, and
impossible to break.
Yeah, they do hook more than a regular SIP polyester of some sort.
I think check might be a better word. Yeah, I think it's like they kind of check in the front part of the lane, don't they?
They have a tendency to grab just a little bit because they are a urethane kind of. They have a urethane base to them, which is the base for all balls, including reactives. And so when they see some friction, they'll go ahead and get forward. Like mine, I put the pin basically at 6 o'clock. So I just go ahead and embrace the fact it's going to pick up, but just make sure it goes forward once it does pick up. And then I keep it shine. But once tour hits, and like you say, we're at our most important part, and the patterns will be harder. My plan is to actually drill a regular polyester that goes as straight as possible.
A yellow one?
If I can get one. Hard to find. I think it deserves a second shot. I'm not sure the first time it was its fault.
He says, I have a big problem with straight ball at shooting spares. Yeah, Jeff, I think that the main thing with spare shooting is if you have an issue with your swing, that tends to show up a lot in spare shooting. People who have straighter swings find spare shooting in general. I mean, there's a lot of guys who've got beautiful swings who make spare shooting look difficult. I'm not saying that.
Yeah.
But if you have inconsistencies in your swing, that tends to show up. So it's actually good, a good practice to improve all parts of your game. trying to shoot some spares straight and try to understand. And if you have the same miss all the time, you can actually it's actually going to be a help to a coach to try and help, to give you some tips on how what your issues are. If you're always missing the spare right, then that'll be one issue. If you're always missing it left, that's probably another issue.
Yeah, and a lot of times it can just be targeting because players today all hook it so much, and there's so much free friction on the lane. There's, the balls hook tons. And so sometimes we're not targeting where we think we are. If your drift is more than you think it is, what you're looking at, and you hit your target, you won't make it. So get with someone like that. That's where one of our sponsors, Mark Baker, comes in. You can get a virtual lesson and help on that as well. So, I mean, how I set up an arsenal in general.
Okay.
I cover the bases. And the one thing that changes a little bit when we're talking about bowling local things and that ball one control ball, like you're talking about, if you're a high rev rate player, that's a urethane ball. If you're a medium guy or a lower guy, it's just a slow, smooth ball that controls it. Well, you don't really need that so much for the league stuff because the friction is there. You're not trying to create minimize reaction and minimize how hard the lanes are. So, for me, it's going to start. Well, I'll just put it up here. That would be my base 6-ball arsenal. Reality, I think it's the best big ball in the market. A Zen Master, and obviously brand centric, but a lower Zen Master as a kind of control middle ball, a Helios, and I would drill that pin up to get more shape out of it. A Wolverine as a kind of a skid flip ball, kind of a dry angular type ball, and then a hype pearl, and I would drill it either lower or more stable to be a touch smoother, even though that ball's it's a smaller core version of a ball that can take advantage of friction on the lane, and then a mix. And there's a bunch of balls that kind of fit in there. We've used Proton Physics this year in that reality. There's a new Nova out that we should have a review soon. Zen Master, Helios, Zen, Phase 2. There is a bunch of balls in that middle range right now. With the Wolverine, that's kind of a high road pearl / Spectre, Wolverine, Hustle Inc. All those balls kind of Hustle Inc. and Hustle Wine.
Sounds like he's covering his bases here, folks.
Yeah, this is, but those are the balls that fit in those categories. And so each one fits in a category, basically, from heavy angular. Zen Master is a medium control, Helios a medium angular, Wolverine dry angular, and then Hype Pearl dry control with the spare ball.
So it pains me to admit this, but Chris is more prepared than I am for this. This
is what I do every day in life, though. This is my whole strategy.
This is Chris's. So I'm actually going to be a little more emotional about my arsenal, especially for the house shots. So in my area,
altered reality would fall in that lineup. If you were a softer speed player and the reality was always kind of early for you, that's where it would fit as a heavier type angular ball. If you're a higher speed player, it could move down into the medium range as that second most hooking ball probably in your arsenal.
So for me, with Chris's arsenal, I too would probably go with the reality as the high end ball, but depending on where I bowled, I might switch that out for an X1. Because I feel like the X1 covers a lot of that same real estate. It's just not to the highest of high end, for super, super tight. So I would do that. I would do, when I'm bowling on house shots, I would never have both the Helios and the Zen Master just because I just don't see those balls. Like for me personally, those balls don't.
Not enough different for you.
Well, they just don't do it for me. Like, I don't feel like I get enough pins to warrant having both of them. I would have bowling in this area specifically where I am, I would have a dart code instead of the Zen Master. But that could equally be a UC2 or a UFO alert, depending on surfaces, how much oil there was, just in general. I like having another asymmetrical pearl ball in that kind of, one of those three. I would probably lean towards the dart code here because on patterns, I wouldn't lean towards the dart code, but on the house shots, the dart code for me is just a monster. It strikes like a maniac. So that would be what I would do there. For my low end ball, bearing in mind, for me, I just tend to bowling on house shots. I would actually use the low end ball at the start. It wouldn't be a ball that I'd change to because there's so much oil in the middle part of the lane that when I move into the middle part of the lane, I'm actually using stronger balls. So I really like the Burner Pearl because I think that it's just got that little bit more flair than the Hustles. And with my extra speed, I like that. So I would have the Burner Pearl as my low ball. Obviously,
and because of Stu, I've added one into my arsenal too. Just a little bit bigger one, so it's underneath the high pearl for me, but mostly because of drilling. Added it down as a longer kind of flippier, but still low pin weak. Because I think the hypes are a little stronger in the mid lane, probably a little less down lane, maybe a touch.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And then for my solid symmetrical ball, I feel like you can't really go wrong with the phase 2. I'm trying to also make this a little different to Chris's because I too like the Zen Master and the Idol Helios. I feel like those two as a pair are really good because they occupy a lot, like a wider spectrum as together. Whereas I feel like the phase 2 kind of overlaps both of them. So if you can afford to take 3, the Zen Master and the Helios. Sorry, if you can afford to take the 2, the Zen Master and the Helios, you occupy maybe this much. Yeah. But it's like half and half. Whereas I feel like the phase 2 is dead in the middle of those 2 balls. So it kind of occupies a bit more options for me anyway. Yeah. So I would use the phase 2. And then with the last ball that I had, I mean, it's hard for me to put that Wolverine down at the minute. I really like what I've seen out of that. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a bit boring as having a similar ball in that gap. I mean, maybe if you wanted an alternative, you could maybe take the Spectre. Don't really know enough about it to make a solid recommendation so far. When I did my Nova video, they had the Dragon pattern out. So that wasn't really a good matchup, 45 feet, for me to do a Spectre video on. So I haven't actually done anything with the Spectre yet. I haven't had a chance to get in the bowling center, which given the last, 18, well, not really the last 6 months, but the 18 months before that, it's become a thing that I get less and less frustrated about the bowling center being busy. It used to really piss me off when I'd drive over there and I couldn't get a lane. Now, seeing how bad it could have been, it's become a lot less of a, first world problem for me, shall we say.
Craig, I think this is a great question. Is the Wolverine sharper on the back end than the High Road Pearl?
Not for me. In 16, it might sharper,
be. But it is in the same category. I think it's a little stronger in the mid lane, actually, which is matching up a little bit more to some of the oils that we're seeing currently as the viscosities go up a little
100%.
bit. 100%. And so it's not that it's sharper, but it's becoming more usable and still a step away from that group of balls, Zen Master, Helios, Phase 2, that have been staples. And I think all 4 of those, depending on which one, where your skill set lies, I think everybody should have at least one of those balls. And this is a step off of that. And it's been a pretty consistent, as we look around, a lot of people like this, including us. And obviously Stu and I don't we don't play the lanes quite the same way, or at least our superpowers are not the same, for sure. How do you have your Wolverine drove, Stu? I was going to ask.
I
that.
have a slightly quicker layout, so I have about 5.5 inch pin with it's a symmetrical ball, so about a 5 inch mass bias, but I have probably about a 2 to 2.5 inch buffer.
So,
So a little higher.
just a tall pin, basically a pin above the fingers.
Yeah, but like a little higher to make it a little quicker off the spot. I think that the one thing I will say in the 12 months that we've been doing this, the thing that's most remarkable, how many global balls have come over since they started being made over in Storm. It's been, it's definitely the marketing and the products. It's been a really good mesh. They've yet again, Bill Chrisman found the right time in the market to push the button to combine the brands and fold them in. And I mean, the rise of global products in 2021 has been remarkable.
Yeah, how good they are, and I think how good they are moving forward. You have to have one big one that hit, and the Zen hit, but you have to have follow-ups that are good around it, and you have a reality, which honestly might be the ball of the year.
Yeah, certainly.
Throne. It won't be the one that sells the most because it's not shiny, and so it probably hooks a little too much for a lot of drier league shots. But yeah, the Wolverine, the Burner series is way under, price at a price point. That's a great buy. Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and so as soon as we can throw all three brands, then of course, Global has millions of balls that you can throw every day.
Yeah. So, like for me, if I was doing this, I know there's a lot of balls up here on the thing. I think I would go Reality, Dark Code, Phase 2, Wolverine, Burner Pearl. If I bowled in a bowling set that I had that was a little bit beat up in the fronts, I might replace the Phase 2 with just a regular Zen. And that kind of reflects the fact that I make the balls a little smoother with my hand in my mind, rather than like making the balls quicker is harder for me than making them smoother. I think Chris kind of falls in the same gap. So
yeah, even though you clear the front of the lane much better than I do.
Yeah.
In general.
So, and that's kind of reflecting the fact that you've got, it's like I say,
my lineup skews a little bit more smoother, shinier, and yours, you can use a little bit more core, more asymmetry, those kind of things.
Yeah. No,
but underrated. You are one of the most versatile guys, which means you can kind of make it do what you want to do.